Hey guys, I'm FTA Reaper. I'm a variety streamer that plays a lot of Tarkov. So if you're like me and playing Tarkov isn't your job, but you still want to get better at it, hit the subscribe button because I'm going to be coming out with a bunch of guides and a bunch of walkthroughs on how you can get better and just what to kind of think about to really improve without having to play this game like 60, 70 hours a week. So we're going to start with the most profitable map in the entire game, Reserve. I'm going to show you every loot spot that I know about, especially some of the ones that I think go underappreciated. So that way, if you're here to make money and walk out paid as a PMC or even as a scav, I'll show you how to do that. We're going to start with some of the more obscure stuff, and we're going to do it without keys. I'll kind of point out some of the good keys that you can pick up, but I'm going to show you how to make money if you're walking in on a fresh account and you have nothing to your name. This spawn tends to not be considered a very good one on this side of the map, and I'll bring up the map too to kind of show you exactly what we're talking about. There is a marked room in this building, but outside of that, people tend to not like spawning on this side, and I know I definitely used to not, but we're going to show you the train building here, which to me is the most underrated building on this map when it comes to loot. But first, if you're playing with the team, what I usually like to do is, if I have someone with a longer range weapon, something like a rifle, maybe an SR-25, something like that, if you send them up top here, you can give overwatch for the hills. You can give overwatch for most of the spawns that start out that way, and there are a few for PMCs that'll spawn there. Sometimes when people spawn out that way, they'll kind of crash down here trying to hit this marked room. And now with 12.11, there's also a spawn inside the actual train building. If you run up to the top here, especially while your teammates start looting this building, if you're not the first one up there, you can give some pretty good support up here without exposing yourself very well. You also have a weapons crate right here. You got some weapons parts here on the shelf. So that's our first weapons crate that's actually over here. Even if you're solo, if you don't want to just rush really hard, especially if you don't have this marked room key, coming up here isn't the worst plan in the world. You just want to be careful because once you're up here, you're kind of stuck, especially if they can close in and get underneath the tower without you being able to pick them off. You're going to be kind of stuck up here and have to fight your way out of it. They can be pretty much anywhere underneath here and wait for you to come out, and you're going to be in some trouble. So solo, I wouldn't necessarily go up here first, but if you're playing with the team, especially if there's too many people to hit the marked room, sending someone up there is not the worst idea in the world. Plus, you get that first weapons box over here. Now, in this building, we'll jump in really quick. You have a grenade box in here that's free. That is AO, I believe, the key, RBAO, and this is RBVO. I do actually have this key. I'll unlock it just so you can see it. But this is one of the marked rooms. If you spawn on this side, you definitely want this key, especially once you get the flea market. Always be hitting that first. This is a good room. I actually don't have this key yet. This is a good room for some weapon parts, especially for AKs. Plus, these windows give you a pretty good cover from anyone that's pushing at the beginning of the match from this direction. Next, we'll run over to this small building. You have a weapons crate here. Sometimes food spawns there. So that's our second weapon crate. And again, if you spawn over here, a lot of people tend to just run towards the other side of the map, but there's actually a lot of loot that they miss out on. These open green weapons crates, a lot of times people overlook them too. They spawn sometimes some weapon parts, sometimes some ammo. It's good to take a look at that. You get a toolbox here, jacket here. Sometimes you can get a little bit of stuff like M scissors and everything. M scissors are pretty valuable, so I'd take those too. Your third weapon crate right here. So we're off to a pretty good start, and then I usually come back over this way once I loot all that. Go up to the second story, out to the balcony. You have your fourth weapons crate. Weapons parts will spawn on here a lot. Sometimes you get some ammo in here, and if you're really suicidal, you can come up on top here and loot the dead scav that's on top. Now, if I'm playing as a scav, I like to come up here a lot, but if I'm playing as a PMC, it's pretty rare that I do, because a lot of times you'll get raiders that can spawn down here. Sometimes even Gluhar and his whole team spawn in there, and if you're looting a body like this, and even if you lay down, you can be pretty easy pickings for a lot of those scavs. Sometimes you'll even have some players come from that spawn over there, over this hill. You're just really, really exposed up here. I like hitting bodies like this because anything can spawn in there, but, and I'll show you that really quick, you can get pretty much anything you want out of that. There's also a grenade box here. It just tends to not be worth it as a PMC, exposing yourself, unless it's like maybe late game, but even then, usually there's a lot of scavs walking around underneath here and everywhere else that I would say just ignore it. So then we drop down here. We're going to cross over to this side, and we're going to go down to the train. So you can get ammo that spawns on here. I don't quite have the strength to jump up there from that side, so we'll run up this way first. I'll show you that in a second. This is, again, over by the balcony. You have a fifth weapons box right here. Drop down. You have your 6 weapons box right here. There's also an AK spawn that sometimes spawns right here where it's kitted. I don't see it very often, but it's here sometimes. You jump across, have your ammo, another grenade box, which is your second one for in here. And then finally, you can come down this way once you catch your breath. And your last weapons box is actually underneath the train platform right there. So all in all, I think that's 6 weapons box if you count the one that's outside there. 7 if you count the one that's in the tower that you've already started out with. And then you have another jacket that's on the outside here, hanging out right on the end of the shovel. So all in all, you're talking about 2 jackets, you're talking about some tools, you're talking about 7 weapons crates. You're off to a pretty good start for a lot of PMC runs if you just have a little bit of luck with those weapons crates. So, once you've looted the train building and you're ready to move on to the rest of the map, you actually have a couple choices. You can head over the Bunker Hermatic Hills, which are over here on the left. You can run through the train depot, which is up ahead here, which is probably my least favorite thing to do when it comes to these 3 options. Or you can go kind of out and around and go towards the night buildings. Now you need to be careful because Gluhar, as said before, can spawn down at the little train depot. He can spawn in white night over there as well, so crossing a lot of that open space, a lot of the times the raiders will see you as quickly as you see them or maybe even faster. So you really need to be careful when you're going those 2 directions. The safest bet, if you want to play it safe and you want to get to the far end of the map where the loot is better, is to go over these set of hills. So let's start by talking about why really quick. When you're up on top here, you can choose when you're taking a fight. Let's say there's some raiders down there, or some PMCs, even some player scavs or regular scavs. You can choose when you're peeking and when you're not. These hills you can always just drop back, cut line of sight, and if you need to, drop in deeper where they won't really be able to see you underneath, but you'll be able to see them when you want to peek. Now let's say you're coming over here for for loot, I should say. There are a couple pit stops up here that have a little bit of loot. We'll talk about them really quick, and then we'll move on to some of the better loot areas. So for starters, these 2 green weapons crates sometimes will spawn weapons parts. Not very often, and they tend to not be very good, but if you're coming over, you might as well take a look. The second rest stop, once you cross the first hill and into the second, you have a weapons crate right here. You have some ammo that spawns here, and I think you get weapons parts on this crate too, so it's good to check. You go left, you have a little medic station. I think once in a while you get medic stuff that spawns there. Sometimes you get stuff that spawns here. Yeah, see, like there's some propanol right there. And then you have a med bag as well. Over here behind the tank, you have a second weapons crate. And then you have the last one that's up here on the front side, where there's a grenade box as well as some more weapons parts. So there's a grenade box, there's a duffel bag, which I really like these duffel bags. I think they're underrated because unlike other options, they can spawn just about anything in the game in here. So it can be technical items, it can be weapons parts, it can be a lot of stuff. It can even be keys and everything like that. So they're good to hit when you're out there. I think they go underrated. All right, so we just finished looting the hills as well. Let's talk strategy for a second. Let's say you've won any gunfight with any teams that might have pushed you at the beginning for the marked room. You've already looted here. You've come up here. You've done some looting. Maybe you're going to loot this train depot here afterward. A lot of times at the beginning of games, PMC groups will pull the alarm to kind of mask their movements, and sometimes player scavs will do it to mask their sounds and everything else. You're right here by that extraction. So what you can do is when that alarm starts going off, you can actually just run inside this bunker, take a quick extract, and say, hey, I've hit 10 to 12 weapons crates. I've hit a bunch of weapon part spawns, and I've probably made some money doing that. So when you spawn on this side, and one of the advantages of hitting the train station is once you've made your money, you basically can choose whether you want to extract or not without having to risk anyone camping down in D2. So really quick, there is a little bit of loot inside the Hermatic Bunker. We'll talk about that really quick. Sometimes you get some ammo inside that open crate. I tend to not come in here because a lot of times there will be campers, people trying to camp the extract that's in here. Sometimes player scavs will come in here and just wait. Sometimes they'll come in here to loot, but more often than not, they'll come in here and trying to catch people once that alarm is pulled. If you're here already, a lot of times you can beat them here to that extract. If you're coming from the other side, a lot of times you won't beat them here, and they'll be waiting for you. You'll have to kill them before you get out. So, moving on, you've got more ammo here. I always like to check inside the open crates. A lot of people kind of move past them, but you can get ammo spawns in there. You have a grenade box here, more ammo spawns here, another wooden crate here. So, you've got a little bit of loot that's in this room. Not a lot. Again, if you're burning time and you're waiting for someone to pull the alarm, it's not a bad idea to run through all this. Sometimes you can get, again, weapons parts on there. Come up here. Check these crates. You got another wooden crate here. Another one here. You can check for ammo on top of the other flat green crates as well. You're moving through. You can see there is a little bit of stuff. And if you are in the mood to camp somebody, here's the extract. The light will actually go green when the alarm's going off. Sometimes you get some food on this too, which can be good in a pinch. And there's also, you can see some ammo in there. I think there's some BP, so there's actually some good stuff. Yeah, so you can see a lot of people will camp here waiting for you to come to the extract once the alarm is pulled. If you're hanging out in this area, though, and you're looting all this, a lot of times you'll beat them to this spot. So you could either come camp it yourself, just turn around, or you can take the extract before they can do anything. Now, we can talk about the underground really quick. Without keys, there's not a lot of reason to go down there. There's some scavs. I think there's now a quest in 12.11 where you have to go down there and shoot some scavs. But beyond that, a lot of player scavs spawn down there, and there's basically no loot outside of having a key. So I tend to not go down there as a PMC. And even as a scav, I try to avoid going down there unless I'm going to my extract. Next, let's talk about the little train depot. This is probably one of the worst loot spots because of just the volume of player scavs versus what you're actually going to get out of it. So, for starters, we're going to start on the Hermatic side by the bunker Hermatic door, and then we'll move to the other set at the end. So, starting with this first set of buildings, you have in here, you can get some technical items. You obviously see there's a weapons crate there. You also got to keep your eye out for the raid boss. He spawns in here a lot. It can be worth fighting him in here. But if he's not here, and sometimes there'll be a couple raiders. If they're not there, you're really just risking it to go and fight guys with like broken down Vepers and stuff that you're not actually going to want to carry out a raid. So I tend to not come over here. It's all risk, very low reward. But if you're here, let's say you don't like what's going on over the night buildings, let's say you're waiting on that extract and you want a little more loot, you can come in here if you're feeling up to it. So you have a toolbox here. Moving on to the second set that's on the Hermatic side, there's not a lot of stuff on this side either. Sometimes you can get some loose stuff on here, like I found motors and everything, but not typically a lot. I usually try to move quickly through that part. So coming out of the first set of buildings, you want to cross the train. On the outside, there's actually a decent number of weapons parts here. You can actually get some decent stocks and everything. Like, you can get some M4 stocks. You can get some decent weapons parts here. Like, there's an MOE hand grip for AKs. It's good to take a quick look at it, and it tends to not usually be looted. So if you're a player scav, coming over here can actually earn you a little bit of money towards the end of a raid, especially if you get in late. So we're now in the middle set of buildings. You can tell because it's got the one with the collapsed roof. You have a weapons crate here, and a lot of weapons parts will spawn up here. A lot of magazines, a lot of good spots. When I come through here, I usually want to check these buildings, especially as a scav, because they tend to go unlooted, and this will be the best loot that you're going to get for it. So on the actual train itself, if you come over this way, you have a green weapon crate right here, which is pretty good because of the size of it. You can get a lot of good items that spawn in there. And then on the building that's over on this side, there's a technical supply crate right here, a couple weapons parts. And you can, if you look around, sometimes like on here you can find motors. Sometimes you can find a motor on there. Like you can see a weapon part spawn there. It's good to take a look around at all the tables in here, even though the loot isn't usually that high. That's about it for the middle line. After that, I'll come over to this side, and again, we'll cross the train one more time. It's a nice little hidey hole. There's no loot in there, but sometimes if you're messed up, it's good to walk in there. Just be careful walking on metal. So this train car with the actual jacket on it. You can loot the jacket, but what you don't want to do is loot it like this, because scavs will walk up behind you. Sometimes player scavs will. If you're going to do it, try to be inside the train car when you hit it. And then there's a weapons crate back in here too. So it's worth hitting this train car especially. That jacket and weapons crate can be worth it. Just be careful when you walk on that metal because people can hear it. Moving on, this is the last set of train depot buildings. There is a wooden crate in this one. That's usually about it. There's not a lot more. Sometimes you get some ammo like you can see it here. And then over here, there's like virtually nothing in this building. So I tend to avoid this one, especially because you usually wind up a little bit more exposed in here. Unless I'm trying to put some shots in somebody at White Knight, or maybe you got Gluhar's men that you want to shoot at. I usually don't go into this building with the gas barrels inside of it. So that's going to do it for the actual train depot. Again, you have another exit to the downstairs. That goes all the way over to the Hermatic. So if you need to make a quick escape, you can use that little escape hatch there. I don't like it. Also lets out over there by that scav building. I don't like going down there because I feel like a lot of the ways you have to leave are pretty exposed. You can see, like, there's a lot of open area out that way where you can get shot. Coming out here, there's a lot of open area here where you don't have a lot of place to go unless you run inside the train building. And then the hermatic doors, obviously, it's not super easy, and there's usually a lot of scavs over there, so I tend to not go over there very often. Moving on to our first chess piece building, we're actually approaching White Night, and you could leave the train building, head out through what I call the scav lands, which is out this way, and then close in on the night building from this direction. Sometimes you get some scavs walking around there, and a lot of player scavs spawn out in that area, and there's very little loot. So I tend to not spend a lot of time, but if you want a safer route than just running through the center of the train depot like that, a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll swing out this way by those gas cans, and then follow this sort of wilderness through the fence and into White Night. And you actually have two choices of approach. You can go in through the back to get to the second story, or, like we're going to do, we're going to run right in the front this time and start with the first and third floor. So you can get a little bit of food there sometimes. You have a toolbox right there by the tank. There's not a lot here on the first floor. There are some weapons parts that sometimes spawn on this table, but usually there's not a lot here on the first floor without having some keys. Now, these keys aren't usually ones that I bring into raid. If you're looking for car batteries, I've heard it's good. There's a little med station in this first floor as well, that once in a while you get some med kits. Like you see the car kit right there on the shelf. It's usually pretty barren, though. I usually don't get a lot in there. I'll make a quick check, or if I'm in some trouble and I'm struggling, like I've been shot and I'm running out of meds, I'll go in there and check, but usually I pass by it. Over here in this first building, again, you don't want to spend a lot of time here, because a lot of PMCs and a lot of player scavs will hang out in this little, the little tank garage right there. And if you're busy trying to, like, loot, you're looking for something, you're walking around, you're making a lot of noise, they'll peek this window and they'll shoot you while you're not paying attention. So I tend to not spend a lot of time with these rooms. There's a toolbox here that if you want to angle yourself like this, it's harder to shoot you. But what I usually won't do is, like, hit these file cabinets, even though file cabinets are great on reserve. Just, again, you're going to be here, you'll be making a lot of noise like this, and it's actually louder than you even hear on mine because I have the volume turned down. But it won't be turned down when you're, for them, when you're actually hitting it. They'll hear that, they'll peek out that window, and you're an easy shot. So this is actually the best spot in the first floor because you get these 3 jackets. You can get a lot of keys out of them. You also get the duffel bag, which again gives you a chance to spawn a lot of different items. So I always make a point to try to hit this if I'm pretty sure that nobody's been through night yet. And then I usually will take a quick peek in the med room and go upstairs. Now, you do want to be careful rounding this corner. There can be rats that are chilling on the second story that are going to have these sandbags ready to shoot you, so be careful going up. Once you get to the third story, first room on your right, food spawn here, not much else, but if you're in a pinch and you're looking for food, I usually check that. You have a computer, another file cabinet that I will hit because usually you can get a lot of good stuff like journals, you can get SAS drives, you can get flash drives, you can get a lot of valuable stuff out of these. You can get a lot of tech items that have stuff like Nixors that are like 15, 20K a piece. It's good to hit file cabinets on reserve, especially when you're looking to make some money. And then next room, you actually only have that one duffel bag. This room down here at the end, though, you get a toolbox, you get a large weapons crate, you get a bunch of weapons parts on this table, you get a bunch of weapons parts that spawn on the actual center table. You get, I think some can spawn on this table as well, and you have some more crates to check for ammo. Pretty good room in here. Usually if you're first, it's pretty good. You also get a pretty decent sight line if anyone's on the roof of Black Knight. You can sometimes catch them unaware, especially if you have a scope. You can get a nice headshot. Sometimes you can, like, peek over this way. Not the best. You can get a lot of player scavs, but it's a decent window that at least when you're in this building, you should take a peek out of before you do anything else. Now next, you can run onto the roof. Be careful not to fall through any holes in the floor because some of them, like this one, will drop you pretty far. You're going to break your legs. Weapons parts and ammo can spawn on here. You can see that's a pretty decent magazine. You have weapons parts here. Over here, more weapons parts, a toolbox, more open crates that weapons parts can spawn there. You can get ammo on this. The only thing you need to be careful of is snipers from the dome. While you're running around on these roofs, when you get to the far end of White Night, they're going to have a sight line on you. So if you're just kind of like out here, minding your own business, looking for something, a lot of times you can get head tapped by people that are trying to do Shooter Born in Heaven. Just be careful with it. Move quick up here, check everything fast, and then get back to an area that's kind of like this, where it's a lot harder for anyone to see you. Maybe somebody up there could see you, but you're pretty well protected when you're over in a spot like this. Now over here, again, more weapons parts in these tables. Always check them, but do it quickly. And then coming over here, there's not a lot in this corner. More weapons parts here on the green crates. You can see how many weapons part spawns are actually in this building. More on the table and on top of here. You can get a lot of pretty good weapons parts, especially once you get a little bit of experience with the game and you know which ones are good and which ones aren't. You can actually make a lot of money running through all those spawns. Now, let's say we need to get to the second story. There is actually a drop down right here where you can drop in, and this is actually the back garage that we talked about before. So we're on the second story. I'll show you that really quick. You can approach, and instead of going through the front, you can come in the back door. There's a toolbox back here, but I usually ignore it. And the easiest way to hit your jump, I see a lot of people struggle with it like this, especially early game when your character is not super, like his strength is pretty low, he can't jump very high. If you stand on top of this, it'll actually make you jump a lot easier, and then you walk up the rest of it, walk into the actual wall, and then make your jump. It's the easiest way I have to do it. It'll save your stamina, and a lot of times if you're in a pinch, it can, especially if you're being chased or something like that, it can get you up there and make sure you don't make any mistakes. Now, second story. You have a couple key rooms, I believe. I think there's one there, and I think there's one on the front side here. That, again, I usually don't carry them with me. I don't carry a lot of keys for the night buildings just because, like, they're not bad. You can get tank batteries and stuff like that, but unless I'm looking for it, I tend to not hit this spot. I try to hit it quickly and then move towards another part of the map, but if you want to bring them, there are a bunch of keys that go to these buildings that can get you some decent loot. You have 2 more file cabinets here that you should hit. Wooden crate right here. There's food spawns here, like on this actual shelf, and I think I've seen some on like this bench before. You have another wooden crate, and I almost always just walk between the beds looking for stuff, because sometimes you can get horses, you can get gold chains that spawn there. I just check it. Usually it happens more on customs and reserve, but I always just check it out of paranoia. Even more weapons parts right here, and you can again get some decent ones. That's a pretty that's a shotgun scope, or that's a shotgun magazine. It's not as good as I thought, but you can get some decent stuff here a lot of the time, and then you can also get that peak that I was talking about before. You can stand on top of this, so you're sitting a little bit higher. Wait for them to come around the corner. You have a shot. You can use this little hidey hole here. Try to get the headshot through there. If you're getting pushed, especially if Gluhar's here and they're all coming up the stairs, this peak can save your life. It's a pretty good spot to attack from, and it's really difficult for them to get a good and accurate shot on you from the stairs here. Now, once we're done, you can either run out the back, or if you want to come down in a little bit safer manner, you can actually jump onto this, and if you crouch while you jump, you can get through the window, drop down to there, take no fall damage. So, we'll cross over to the tank garage next. Again, when we're talking about underrated buildings, I like to run through here quick because a lot of people don't give it the respect it deserves. You can get a weapons crate here. Sometimes you can get food spawns here. Like there's a water ration that we're about to drink. And that's about it for this spot. You come over to the second side. You have food that can spawn on this table, sometimes on this bed. Sometimes you'll get ammo on the weight bench here. Sometimes you'll get some over on that spot. And then you have another duffel bag right there. Toolbox here by the front. Weapons crate right here in the back of the truck. And it's a good place to come if you're trying to catch your breath and you're doing a lot of running through the building. Like if you're coming from the train building, you don't want to stop at night. You want to get over towards the center part of the map where a lot of the loot is. This building's a good place to catch your breath and then make a break for it once you're gassed up again. Running over to this building, weapons parts, again, on top of here, sometimes some ammo. It's always good to check. I don't feel like a lot of people check that spot as much. You're pretty safe from the dome as well, from any snipers that are up on the hill. Obviously, if you're hanging out this way, they can get a shot on you, but usually they're not looking out this way unless they're checking that kind of gap in the wall. So you're usually pretty safe to run through it quick, just take a quick peek at what's there and then move on. Once you go into the building, I always check this room, but there's rarely anything on these shelves. I don't really find a whole lot in there, but in this other side, the other half, you have a duffel bag, 2 more jackets, and then you can get a lot of tech spawns. Like you can get metal scissors on these tables. You can get elite pliers and all that on these shelves. I usually like to take a quick look at them and then move forward. Now, if you need to and you're running this map light, you can take that extract. But if you are you have to throw your backpack off to do it. Over here, there's a little bit more ammo and stuff. I tend to not spend a lot of time here. Like you can get magazines right here. You can get weapons parts, but for whatever reason, I don't seem to get as good stuff from this side, so I usually just pass it by. But if you're making sort of that low-key run on reserve where you're trying to make money, you can always make a stop there. Here's a little bit better for more weapons, parts, and ammo. I know there's none here on the offline, but your loot will actually be better when you're actually playing online than when you are offline. And then in this building, sometimes you can get like screwdrivers, metal scissors in here. I check it, and then you just have a quick and easy PC, as well as another tool shelf right there. Okay, if you're really feeling ballsy, or if you're a player scav, you got another dead scav that's hanging out right there. He's kind of like a duffel bag where anything can spawn on him. So if you're really feeling up to it, you can run out there and try to make a hero play to loot that. I usually leave that alone. I almost never go out there unless I'm a player scav and I got nothing to lose. But this is the Black Knight building we're going to be entering, which is right across from White Knight. We took the big loop out and around, hit the tank garage, hit the little scav depot there, the little scav rest points, and now we're coming back into Black Knight. So in Black Knight, you have a toolbox here. You have a couple more of the weapons crates here that I check for ammo. I actually find some decent stuff on these tables sometimes. Some weapon parts, some ammo. And then you also have some tools on these shelves. You have a jacket, another toolbox here. And all of these doors actually down, or this door at least, is open as well. But I tend to not spend a lot of time here. You can get some tools on this shelf. Not very often. And plus, you're just kind of exposing yourself towards King and anyone that might be on this roof looking, or anyone that's running through the middle. So unless I hear somebody pull the alarm, I tend to not spend a lot of time in this room. And I usually like to keep this door closed, just in case anybody comes in and is pushing the building. It's another sort of barrier between you and them, where you'll hear them open the door and get a chance to get the drop on them. Now this room's locked, but over here, relatively safe. Not a lot of action, not a lot of throughfare goes through this way because there's so little cover. So I don't really worry about these windows as much. You have a jacket here. Again, another filing cabinet here that's pretty good for loot. And then there's never really anything on that. Never really on here either. So I usually don't spend a lot of time in this room. This door actually doesn't exist. But this one, another good spot. Kind of across. It's almost the flip of White, where you had the 3 jackets in that room right up there. You have the 2 jackets here. And then you have another duffel bag. So between those 2 buildings, you can get 5 jackets and a couple duffel bags. You can get some good keys out of that. You can get some good, pretty much anything out of the duffel bags. Pretty good way to make some money really quickly. Coming up to second story of Black Knight, another locked door here. You have a wooden crate, another locked door on this side, and then you have another tech spawn where you can get like little tools and stuff like that. If you need to make a tool set, you can check there. This is just a bathroom, I believe. There's nothing in here. Yeah. Never spend any time in the bathrooms. That's one spot that almost nothing spawns on. But you can get weapons parts here. You actually get a lot of them. There's only a few of them here this time. Second door, 2 more jackets, 2 more file cabinets. A lot of money if you go and check it. Third spot, just a toolbox. Don't really spend more time in here than that. And then this door is dead. There's nothing actually in there. After that, moving up to the third story, this is where a lot of the money's at. You've got a grenade box. You have a food spawn where it can spawn on the table, a duffel bag. I check these shelves and this table, usually not as much on those, but you can check them when you're in here. Same thing over here. Sometimes you get weapons parts here, but usually not. Then we'll go to this door right here. Another jacket, 3 file cabinets, no PC, but you get the file cabinets. Again, a lot of money in these cabinets if you take the time to go through them all. I'm not going to do it here for this, but if you sit there and click through them, you can get Nixors, you can get flash drives, you can get pretty much anything you need that'll make you a lot of money and not take up a lot of backpack space. This room, down here at the end, you actually have 4 PCs. You have one here, one over there in the corner, and then one on this spot, and then you also have a file cabinet as well. And then we have the roof. Just like White Knight, except much more dangerous. You need to be careful of the dome and anyone that might be up in those hills sniping, because this side, totally exposed. You can see the other side, you have that kind of wall for cover for at least half of the roof. There is virtually no cover, and there's no ladder to the second story or anything like that, so be quick when you're out here on this roof. Usually I come over here and check for weapons parts first and ammo, and then I'll come over back this direction. You just want to check all of these for weapons parts. That's for a P90. This weapons crate, I usually pass it by because there is literally 0 cover. If you stop to hit this like this, everybody on the dome is going to have that long to shoot you. So usually I try to stay moving. and just don't give them an easy target. But for this weapons box, when I hit it, I'll usually get crouched by the wall here, hit F, and then, oh, I didn't do it right there. But if you do it right, you can hit F and then X really quickly, and you'll actually lay down. Like that. And that should protect you most of the way from the dome. They might still be able to see your legs a little bit, but they won't get that instant one tap on you. I'll come over here and I'll do the same thing with this weapons box. I'll try to angle myself a little bit like this, and then lay down while you search it. You need to be careful, because if you get too far away, then your guy won't search it. But if you do it right, you'll lay down, you can check what's inside, and you're a lot less exposed to that instant headshot. Over here, same deal, weapons crates, check for ammo, and then run back inside as quick as you can. I don't like spending a lot of time on the Black Knight roof, even though I usually don't get sniped off very often. Just one of those paranoia things that I feel like the more you're in there and the longer you're out there, the more exposed you're going to be, and you're always worried about that guy hanging out up on top. Now, we're moving towards the side of the map that most people will hang out towards. All these chess piece buildings outside of the night buildings tend to be a lot more traffic, so you need to be faster getting to them. You know, you should really commit to hitting something like the night buildings and the train building first. If that's what you're going to do, I would hit all that and either head to one of these buildings to try to extract, or go back to the train, or go for the bunker if the alarm's been pulled. What I wouldn't do is loot all of that and then expect to come over to this side of the map and make a lot of money. You can try to get sloppy seconds on everything, but I would really try to be careful with it. Let's say you're coming through the middle, though. Let's say you're on your way to pull the alarm, something along those lines. You have a weapons crate here. That's about it. You can check these for more weapons parts, but not a lot of good things spawn out here. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of ammo. Like, you can see there's a little bit there. I tend to not spend a lot of time here because a lot of people hang out in King. Some people hang out in White Bishop. And if you're making a lot of noise, or if you have to fight a scav out here or something, a lot of times they'll come look over this balcony, and then you're basically just dead. So I usually try to avoid coming through here at all. But if you're a scav, check that box. Pretty good way to, you know, hit a pretty good weapons crate on the way out of a match, too. Now, we're going to talk about the King building. King building, for me, little overrated. A lot of people push it because there is a chance for a graphics card spawn in there. A lot of people will spawn actually inside. Usually you can have a team that can spawn right here in this actual garage of it. It's not a bad building if you get here first. Like, if you spawn here, or if you spawn at the dome and you decide, hey, I want to come down and hit King really quickly, you can do that. But coming into this point, late in a match, there will be a lot of people moving through here, and there won't be a lot of loot left. So I tend to avoid it unless I'm here first. You always want to check these shelves, because they can spawn military tech, things like MGTs, things like military filters, iridium. You can get a lot of high-dollar stuff that doesn't take up a lot of space. You can get cough dams that, again, you find a cough dam, it's like 90, 100K right there. You throw that in your gamma or your alpha, and you've made money on your raid pretty much. Unless you're coming in just kitted to the gills, you've probably made money off of one cough dam. So always go through these shelves, and you always want to just strafe them, kind of like I am right now. Because when you strafe them like this, it'll reveal anything that might not be showing up. I know you can see my sights are kind of glitched on my gun. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but anyway, run through all of these. Just run your nose right along everything, see if you get anything to spawn. And then this shelf as well, a lot of people miss it. If you are coming to King late, check this shelf. It spawns like military cable here a lot. I see sometimes MGTs. I'll scoop stuff a lot off of that when people aren't paying attention. Now, two choices in King. You can run up these metal stairs, which is incredibly loud, and get to the third story, or you can come through the hole in the wall, which is considerably safer. A lot more people will be hanging out here because everybody knows it's safer, but you can do that. This is actually the area with the tents you can see that we were talking about before. So you can enter from this direction too if you choose to. On the second story, coming from this side, you have a little medic room. You have a bag here, stuff spawns on the table, stuff will spawn on these shelves. It's a good way mid-raid if you need to freshen up your meds, or if you've been in a lot of fighting, or if you're just looking for meds in general to come in here. Gym bag here. I don't go in this room because there's virtually no loot. But here's the hole in the wall again. You cut through the hole in the wall, you can go right up here, and you're on that side as well. It's a giant circle. So, we want to get to the other side. We can pop this door open. We can cut through the gym. There's nothing, no real loot here. There's one gym bag there. You can stop for that. The reason most people come to King is here on the floor, you can get high-dollar electronic spawns. And you can see here, there's a spark plug. It's not worth a whole lot, but you want to check these just like you check the the military shelves in the other building, or in the actual garage, because they can spawn all the same stuff. But then you also want to go through and check the floor, because you can get graphics cards that spawn here. It's a pretty low chance, but people almost always come here first at the beginning of a match just looking for graphics cards. Same thing back here. Check your military shelves. Check the floor. I haven't found a graphics card in this room, but I have found like 3 or 4 of them in that room over a lot of raids. Okay, now that we've walked through the most important parts of King, let's talk about strategy really quick. Through this metal grate, you actually have access to D2. You can leave here. There's also multiple stories of King. What I would normally do, and what I would say, what I would recommend you do, is once you run through the center garage and then through these little tech buildings, I would leave the King building. You're going to get people pushing, looking for those graphics cards, thinking that nobody might have hit it and everything else pushing late. So unless you're looking for a fight, and you're really looking to take the loot off of somebody else, which, again, not really what this video is about, I would leave the building. There's not a ton of other great loot in here. We'll walk through it really quick. I want to be really quick about it. But strategy-wise, once you've hit those buildings on the first floor, or once you've hit those rooms on the first floor, there's actually one more room on the second I'd probably take a quick look at, and then I'd head out. I wouldn't stay here. But let's say you're totally just trying to clean out this building while you're here. We'll talk about it. There's a really quick toolbox right there. You can get some tools in here sometimes. This is also another entrance to the first story. It's just really loud because that's a metal ramp. You can take it if you want to. I usually let it go. If you don't want to open that metal door for any reason, like if you think it's too loud, you can go around, but there's not really any reason to. After that, let's go to the second story. Well, we'll take a quick look at this side as well. There's just a quick exit here. You can kind of keep an eye on things. You can enter technically from the open, but almost nobody ever moves through here because there's so many windows and so many other buildings that have a view on it that usually people let it go. All right, moving on. You have this other first floor building. You have a couple filing cabinets there that you can see. I think that's about it. I don't think anything else spawns there. We'll cut through. We'll go to the second story. Again, bathrooms tend to be pretty empty, so I usually don't go through them. This is the room I was talking about. There are a couple more military shelves here. Same deal. Run your nose along them because sometimes some of the stuff kind of falls through and you can't see it outright. Another shelf with stuff in here for tools, but not really high-dollar loot spawns, so I usually don't even waste my time up there. This room, too, again, check these barrels for spawns. Check on top of the crates for, like, military tech. This would be the only room on the second story that really I'd be that interested in. You can check the other one, but I never find anything on those shelves, so let me know if you find anything in the comments below. I never find anything on on that shelf specifically in that room. If I do find anything, it'll be sitting on these crates or on those barrels, and then I usually head out. But we'll take a look at the rest of the building just so you can see. I don't think anything actually even spawns in here. You can get some sight lines on people walking through the White Bishop, but really there's not a whole lot in this room. I usually move on pretty quick. We're back in the room that I said it was worth looting. We'll cut right through to the second story. So in this first room right here, you have a weapons crate here. There's never really anything on that box. You can come over to this side. I usually don't find a lot in this room. I see there's a water filter here, which, again, good spawn chance. Usually these shelves will spawn you some sort of tech items. I would definitely take that water filter. And then you have another cabinet if you want to spend the time to go look at it. Look at these shelves, but I don't think anything spawns on them. I usually move past this part. In here, you have a duffel bag. Same deal. Check the table, but I don't think anything spawns on it. This next room, same, nothing much in here. And this is why I don't spend time in the King building. You can see there's a lot of these rooms. I'm saying, oh, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. A little bit of ammo on the desk. You get a weapons crate here on the entrance, and this is the third story balcony. So, interesting spot being here. It's a little noisy coming out here, so usually people can figure out because both of your staircases are metal. But you can get decent shots on people on King. On Bishop. I think there's better sights, but this might be somewhere where they're not expecting. You hear people moving through the middle. This is where you can go peek over. Same deal if you hear them in Black Knight over there. You can get shots on people that are either on the roof or in the second story windows. You can get a good sight line on people from down there. You can see there's a magazine right there that spawns. I just don't spend a lot of time out here. You are still sort of exposed, and there's just not a ton of loot. Going back inside, file cabinet, wooden crate, file cabinet over here in the corner as well, and then, again, much safer to peek Bishop from the inside than it would be out on the outside, so if you were going to do it, I'd say instead of going on that balcony, probably come in here. The only thing I would say that balcony is good for is if you are trying to push this building, and they heard you running up the metal steps, and you get the kind of sense that they're in this room or something like that, you could come over here and try to shoot them through the windows. You can actually jump in the window if you want to. It's just it is a different way to enter the building, but again, usually you're loud enough, people are going to kind of figure it out until you jump through the window, then you might give them a shake. Alright, now, going around the corner, back towards the center part of the map, you have this room here with a little bit of ammo. Not a bad sight on the graphics below. So let's say you do decide you want to loot this room in this building. If you hear people kind of come in late and start going through here and checking all your shelves and everything, you can come to this window and get a pretty decent shot on them. You can see there's pineapple juice here that I'm going to carry. We might drink that here in a second. And then you have another room that's kind of the same idea that's that has a key. I don't remember what that key's name is, but I've had it before. You get that window, which is almost the same view as the free window that's right next to it. But they're both pretty good, and sometimes you get like AK spawns in there. It's okay. It's not a great room, not a great key, but if you have like 2 key tools or something, maybe you bring it with you. Finally, we have the top, the 4th floor, the 4th story roof. So really quick, you can always check these crates for ammo. You can jump actually on top of this if you want to get a cheeky peek over on it. If you're feeling ballsy, you can run across the metal roof and get peeks on Bishop. You can get peeks on people running underneath, maybe in the fuel tanks as well. The only thing is, again, look at the dome. You can see pretty much anywhere on those hills. They can see you running across this roof, no problem. There is a weapons crate up here, though. A little bit of ammo, too. So if you're feeling it, if you're feeling ballsy and you feel like you run Tarkov, go ahead and jump up there. If not, there's definitely safer places to go look for loot. Same deal. Wooden crate there. You want to check these for ammo as well. Not a ton of spawns up here, but I think you can get some weapons parts on this table too. There's just none here in the offline mode. I usually leave through the building, but I'll show you here real quick. We'll drop off. We are just going to go to the next building. That pretty much sums it up for King outside of the downstairs. So we'll cross over to White Bishop, which is another underrated building in my opinion. I know there's sometimes some PMCs that move through here. Some people love this building. Some people never come here when they play Reserve. I think this is a pretty solid building that maybe if you don't come here, you should sort of work it into your rotation a little bit. So first room, you come in, you have a weapons crate right here. You can get a little bit of ammo there as well. Sometimes stuff spawns on this barrel and on those chairs. I don't think anything's in this room. No, I take it back. There's a weapons crate in here. I think you can get some weapons parts that spawn in there sometimes. Not bad. You can cut through to the center of the building. Another weapons crate that you can hit. Outside, there's weapons parts that are up there. You also have an exit where you can leave. You just have to be careful because it's loud. You can hear the metal. Kind of gives away your position a little bit when people hear it. Now, this is the part of the building which is the reason why you should come here. All these med rooms. So every one of these rooms that looks kind of like a doctor's office has a chance to spawn a bunch of meds. What you want to do is when you see piles of stuff like this on the floor, you want to just run your nose kind of through it all and look for the white dot in the center, because a lot of stuff will like sit there and be really, really hard to see. Sometimes you'll see a Saliwa, it's pretty easy. Sometimes you'll see like an IFAC, no big deal. But sometimes when it's like, there'll be like SJ6s, there'll be Propadol, that kind of stuff. They can be kind of hard to see, so that's why I usually try to like walk through it. These shelves also spawn things. This shelf does. You always want to look at these shelves for meds as well as the tables that are in these buildings. Now, there's actually 5 of these of these rooms that are on the first floor that open for free. There's a 6th one in the basement, and then there's 3 more above. So even without any keys, you can come here and you get a bunch. And I know we're not coming up with a lot of stuff this time, but it is offline. You want to check these shelves too for Propadol and everything. Check the gurneys, check the boxes. Even though without any keys, you can come in here and find a ton of meds usually just hanging out on the floor. Like you saw the IFAC that was there. You always want to check this stuff really quick. Always want to go through. And that's why you kind of just want to like look down and see if you can see anything. Just because it can be hard to make it out. Now, this balcony, like we were talking about, weapons parts spawn here, and then usually on this crate as well. You can get some decent parts off of that. Coming to 2nd story, you have another one of the rooms here. This room is actually a key. I think this is KS. Actually, this might be... Yeah, this is KSM on this side, I think. I usually skip the rooms that don't look like med offices. Like these barracks, not a lot of stuff spawns in here, and it's usually just kind of a waste of time to go through them. But down here, You have your last one on the end. Again, walk through it. You're looking for meds. You want to look for that white dot. It can be hard to see stuff sometimes, like this Band-Aid. It can be hard to kind of distinguish if you just take a quick peek, so I usually like to try to walk through it and point my gun down at it. These shelves also have meds, and I'll unlock these so you can see. The two with the keys, they are pretty expensive keys, but usually it's almost a guaranteed spawn for a lot of meds. Like, look at that, 2 grizzlies, a cat, a CMS kit. Like, that's some money right there. Then you also have NACL right there, another cat. You need this for a quest. That's actually one of the quest items right there. These keys, even though they're expensive, if you can get them early game, they can be pretty profitable to go in and check. So if you count them all, you can have 5 on this floor, 5 on the first floor, and then 1 more in the basement. You can get 11 rooms that you're going through looking for meds. And I'll unlock the, I think this is SMP on this side. We'll take a quick look. Again, even if you don't have the keys, it's worth coming here and looking at it. That's one of the journals. You want to check the shelves, too. You want to check this shelf. There's just a splint, and then on the table. This key wasn't very good this time, but you almost always want to go through these because there's a lot of money to be had. Finally, you go to the roof. There's a little drop down that gets you back into the building there with a weapons crate in there. Sometimes you get some weapon parts over here on these tables. I usually check the center for weapons parts. Sometimes you'll get like stuff that spawns on these boxes too. I check them, but the key is you just want to be careful. Sometimes there's people that are hanging out over on Black Bishop's roof. Sometimes there's people in King. There's the dome that could shoot you up here. Kind of like what we were talking about on Black Knight. You want to move through this building as quick as possible, and when you do stop to check a box, instead of just crouching or something like that where maybe they can see your head, what you want to do is hit it and then just try to lay down. And I've been messing that up all day, but you want to try to search like this, where it'll be a lot harder for anyone to see you. Alright. Last chance for weapons parts right there. Table 2, you always want to check that. And when you're ready to come off the roof, what I usually do is I drop down through this building, or through that hole in the wall, get a weapons crate, and then when you leave, you crouch right up here. And it's still hard to get through, but if you kind of like swing side to side, you'll kind of drop through and back into the main building. Alright. Basement time. Down here, you actually have 2 separate rooms. You have one that's kind of like a barracks. There's not a whole lot down here except for a wooden crate that's right there. I usually check like the tables. Well, there's an AK spawn right there. It's just a stock AK, but still, it's something. And then back here, this is a good place to dump loot. Not a lot of people come back here. You do have a duffel bag, but if you, let's say one of your teammates got killed and you're trying to hide his stuff, this little closet isn't bad, especially when you just shut the door afterward. And you walk right out. Usually it comes back on insurance. You cross the hallway, and you have a med crate right here, a couple more piles of stuff down on the floor, a couple shelves that can spawn things, and then you want to check these shelves as well, always, for meds. So this is the 11th room for meds that is in this building. Now, you have a choice. You go down into the actual D2 bunker from here. I never come in from... I'll show you this while we're here. I never come in from White Bishop because you have this water, this flooded area, and when you walk in it, it's really loud. So I almost always, like if you're going to do it, let's say you're in a pinch or you're running from somebody or you're running out of time, you're going to do it, run, try to jump through the water because they're going to hear you as soon as you walk through it. Anyway, you might as well just try to hurry as quick as you can through it and take a jump. But we'll go back topside. We'll talk about D2 last. I just try to avoid White Bishop's entrance into D2 as much as humanly possible. Alright, so that's going to do it for D2. Or, I'm sorry, that's going to do it for White Bishop. We're going to leave White Bishop right here, and we're going to go right across the street to Black Bishop. This is, without a doubt, the best building in the game. Alright, the very... Well, maybe... I take it back. Maybe Tech Light's better. Something like that in interchange. At the very least, this is probably the best building in the entire map. You have 2 entrances. Well, along the backside, you have 2 choices. You come up the ramp like I just did, or you can run along the metal roof that's along the back here and jump in through the first floor windows. There's 2 entrances in the front. And this building is actually almost 2 that are sort of divided in half. So you have this entrance right here, and then another one on the far side that's like the barracks. And then you have the kitchen that is what the roof of what we're standing on. We'll start first floor. We'll go take a look at the kitchen. And then we'll go back into the barracks. So when you need food, this is where you come. Almost always. Whenever I'm scavving, I like to come in here a lot. You can get food on this table. You see the celery. You can get some on there. You can get some more some more ammo and stuff in the green crates. And then once you check that, you come over here. Food spawns on these shelves. Food spawns on this shelf as well. We'll carry the peas because I might need energy here soon. You get a couple jackets. You got food in the back there. And then coming in here, you can get food on the stove sometimes. Sometimes it's back here on the table. You can get a little AKU spawn that spawns here sometimes. And you have another dead scab that's kind of like one of those gym bags where you just go through it. He can spawn you anything. Alright, so we cleaned the food section out on the top floor. From here, you go downstairs. You have a food crate on this side. You have an entrance into D2 down here. You have a couple more rooms that can spawn food. Like, you can get a little bit of stuff in, like, these green trays and stuff. But I tend to ignore this room and this room. There's just not a lot in there. But this spot right here specifically, I love hitting down here. It's a good way to get a lot of money for not super contested stuff. Sometimes you get people down here, but I'll show you. You can get cigarettes like crazy out of these food boxes. You can get aquamaris that are, you know, amazing to keep in your stash because they're great for your hydration and energy. There's a second food box there. Toolbox here. There's a once in a while you get some tools on those shelves, but not very often. And then you have another toolbox that's down here in this back closet. Cutting through, you have a little weapons room. You always want to check these for like magazines. You get weapons parts here. You can get some weapons parts that chill on here. Magazines, all the rest of it. You got a toolbox. Sometimes you can get some tools and stuff that spawn here. The only thing you need to be careful of is with the wood floor. People will hear you go from dirt and then hear you run along the wood. And it can be pretty obvious where you're at. Now, there's a little bit of stuff down here. This is, again, the end of the hallway that we were looking at before. This takes us to D2 on the left. This is where we were looking at before with the food crates. So there's the food crate we were talking about. I wouldn't spend a lot of time looting this hallway. There is a little bit of stuff down here. Outside of this room, where you got a weapons crate, you got all the weapons boxes, the toolboxes we were talking about. Outside of that, a lot of this stuff, there's like a couple duffel bags, there's a couple weapon spawns. It's kind of a dead end. You can go down into D2 on this side too, but there's just not a lot that makes it really worth it. So I tend to pass by that, turn my nose up at it. And I usually, when I'm coming through here, maybe I'll hit this room and then I'll go down to D2. Alright, so that's going to do it for the food side of Black Bishop. Now let's talk about the actual barracks. This is where the money's made. A lot of people, will, when they spawn, you know, in that building, they'll spawn to the left there, they'll spawn there, they'll spawn there, they'll spawn further to the right. They push this building first because there's a graphics card spawn, there's a lot of other good spawns that are in this building, a lot of money comes through this building. Again, this is the best building in the entire map. So, we came in through the back way, across the metal roof. We have a wooden box here. You can check the shelf for stuff, but I don't think anything spawns here. You always want to peek the hallways carefully. But at the end of the hallway, we have RBAM, which I will unlock and show you really quick. Tons of good weapons parts, tons of good magazines, tons of good ammo spawn there. You get 3 toolboxes. You can get tool sets. You can get the big filters on here. You can get intel on this crate. You can get this jacket here that has a good spawn. You get military tech on here. This room is like one of the best in the game. I love hitting this room every time I get to Black Bishop. And there's a lot of times, even especially early towards the front end of a wipe, where you can come to Black Bishop really late. You know, if you're going to make your way down to D2, and this door will still be locked because people don't have this key. But we'll clear the first floor really quick. We'll show you everything. Just, you always have to be careful because it is high traffic. So it's high reward, high risk, because a lot of people come here looking for loot. So you have a computer here. A lot of loose loot will be hanging around in these rooms. So it's good to look around. I like this room. Because you get a grenade box, you get another file cabinet that's relatively safe to check. You get the jacket here. You get you get tools on this shelf here, and you get the duffel bag here. After that, I push onto this side. A little bit of like ammo and stuff here, like magazine. This is a great magazine because it's a 30 rounder for a Val. That's like a $40,000 magazine plus the ammo. But you get magazines here. Not a lot else. Again, empty crates for ammo, and then a duffel bag. I don't spend a lot of time there. Another tool set, or another file cabinet here. If you're playing with a big team and you guys have taken this over and you need some loot, I would say hit it. If not, I'd say keep moving because there's other better stuff in here. Another computer back here. and we'll go to the second story. PC right here. Sometimes you can get some meds. Yeah, that spawn on this couch. Not much else. I don't think anything spawns on the shelf, but don't quote me on that one. You have a wooden crate here. Same deal. Another file cabinet that's relatively safe. Like, maybe somebody from Black Pawn's roof could shoot you, but for the most part, nobody's going to know you're here outside of a little bit of sound. All right, so this room, you have a PC over here in the corner. You have a duffel bag, and I feel like there's some loose loot that spawns on this shelf. I don't remember exactly if it is or not, but when you loot it, just go ahead and take a quick check on it. Second story still. Second story still. Oh, I usually check these desks for ammo. Sometimes you get some weapon parts and stuff, but not often. You know, if I'm just clearing this building, if I've decided I'm looting it, then I usually just come through. Same thing with these desks. You have a wooden crate there in the corner. I usually just come through looking for anything on top of them. And I usually make a move pretty quick through them as well. A little bit of ammo right there. Grenade box. And then finally, you have a little med station here as well. You have a med bag. Meds can spawn on this shelf. There's none here this time. And then I think sometimes they spawn on this little bed or around it. But you can get a couple weapons parts here. A little bit of ammo here. And then you have a locked door that has graphics card spawns in it. Now, even though that door is locked, you come up here and jump out this window. I'll show you that in a minute here. You can still get into that door and out of it without needing a key. Now, this room is actually, again, another one that people sleep on. This is where you jump up from the food side balcony, like we did at first. You come in. I usually come over here and look for parts and anything else. Also, you can get a kind of a sight line on the balcony if you need to. Moving forward, though, you can get ammo here on the floor. These crates usually spawn, like, good weapons parts. And when I say good weapons parts, like, you can get good magazines. Sometimes you get 60 rounders, or you get drums. Like, that's a good compensator there at the end. You have a wooden crate here as well. I think people kind of underestimate how good the weapons parts are here, because I've come in here end of raid and, like, this room's unhit. Like, people usually run to this drop down to try to get the graphics card, and they miss a lot of other stuff on this third story. And I'll show you that here really quick. So on top of here, you can have military tech spawns here, like M-Cable. Iridium can spawn here on this chair as well. Anything near these satellite dishes can spawn like military tech. You have a crate here, a toolbox there as well. This room is relatively empty. I don't usually go in there, but these shelves in the back on the third story can spawn military items. Like, you can get M-Cables, you can get MGTs, and people tend to not check them. So coming here, even if you're not the first one to Bishop, a lot of times I'll come up here, even as a scav. That shelf you just saw me look at, and this shelf here as well, usually you can get military tech that hasn't been checked. It's not always there, but when it is, a lot of times people don't go and check it. Finally, this room over here, you have a PC. There's like food spawns here in the corner a lot, which we're about to eat really quick because we're just about out of energy. And then finally back here, you have a weapons crate on the couch. And another weapons box here. Now we'll go to the drop down. I'm just gonna chug this this Aquamari really quick. Just we're at 100 of everything. You don't have to stop. So for the drop down, you come to this corner window, and usually this happens at the beginning of the raid. Like, almost always somebody is running here from one of the spawns in the back, or you know, maybe they were over that way. They get up here, and then if you're sniping on the dome, you can just catch them as they jump out and onto this balcony and in through the window. Now, once you're here, you want to look at the floor, but you mainly want to be looking at these shelves, looking for graphics cards, other high-dollar electronics that can spawn, like CPU fans right there. Sometimes you'll get RAM, sometimes you get CPU. PCBs aren't bad. This is one of the highest, or it used to be one of the highest dollar rooms on the map. This wipe hasn't been as good to me. I've only been here a few times so far where I've got here first, but typically, if you can get here first, you want to check for the graphics card, and then you want to get out of here. Because, again, snipers are going to be looking. People coming through the building are going to be looking for you. I know there's 2 PCs here. I know there's a duffel bag here, but I almost always leave them. Because when you stop to loot them, if there's somebody up on Sniper Rock up there, or if he's up on the dome, a lot of times your head's just going to be sticking out, and it's a free kill, and it's game over. Now to leave. Like I said, you don't need a key, which is good, because you're locked in here. You can jump out on the patio, on the little awning, and you can drop down if you want to. Or what you can do, and what I usually do that's a lot safer, where you don't have to worry about the dome sniper, you come to this back window, and you jump through the actual window and crouch, and your guy will jump out the back. So once you did that, you are finished with Black Bishop. This is the underground that we were looking at before. We could take that to D2, but we're going to go look at the pawn buildings really quick, and then up to Dome, and then we'll go down to D2. Alright, before we go through the pawn buildings, just really quick, I'll show you if you're absolutely a madman, or if you're scavving, and you're not worried about the dome, you're not really worried about getting shot, you have a tech supply crate out here in the middle, out here by the chopper. You have a jacket that's hanging out here that, again, can spawn you a lot of keys. You have 2 ration crates up here. You have a medical crate down here. And then you have this little awning that, again, has some of the best spawns in the game. And I'll show you here really quick. You have, right here, a weapons crate. And then if you crawl underneath, there's a dead scab, and there's actually a roller spawn that's down here. It's not here this time, but I actually have a picture of one. It spawns right here by this grate. And then you get the dead spawn that's kind of like the duffel bag that you can check down here too. You just need to be careful because you're stuck. If anyone throws a grenade in there with you, you're dead. You can't even really stand up. You have to crawl your way through the outside of it. If people are paying attention while you come out here, it could be a pretty quick death for you. It's a pretty quick game over. So, hey, take your chances, try your luck, do what you want to do. I found rollers down there before, especially scavving. It's worth the risk, but just be smart about running through the center here because any one of these windows on this building, this building, this building, and King, which a little bit harder with the trees, but any of those windows could have people watching you. Now the actual chopper, you have a weapons crate here on the back. Again, kind of exposed, hitting it. Pretty much anyone in White Pawn, if they hear you running on the metal, you look out a window and you're pretty much free eats while you're sitting here looting it. Any one of those windows they could peek out of. You have a weapons crate on top, another one here on the ground, and then you have an intel spawn that supposedly is right here on the seat. I've never actually seen it, but I always check it, and I never get it. So go ahead and check intel there if you want to. Intel's a great way to make 200K plus. Just, you find that, it's kind of like a cough dam where your raid is just made if you find a set of it. Alright, coming into Black Pawn now. We'll take a look. You know it's Black Pawn. It's in the middle. It's got a symbol on the side. We're going to start with the basement really quick. There's doors that lead to D2, like here. Unlike a lot of other buildings, you can actually close these and kind of keep yourself a lot safer. These other rooms, I don't really go in them. Usually when I'm down here, it's really high traffic because there's actually a marked room down here by Black Pawn. And we're going to go take a look at that. The reason I don't spend a lot of time looting down here is because it's so high traffic, people are going to come to see if somebody hit the marked room that's down here at the end of the hallway right here. You'll have another entrance to D2, but people come to see if this marked room is hit. And while they're doing that, you know, if you're going through these other rooms, if you're walking on wood, if you're picking stuff up and looting, you know, you're going through all this, you're walking around, you're like, oh, hey, cool, I'm getting stuff. They're going to hear that, and then they're going to close you into one of these rooms, and they're going to kill you. So I would recommend, short of hitting, like, this room that has a key, hitting the marked room, and then maybe moving through the gym when you need to trade sides, I wouldn't really mess with any of these rooms. Anyway, we'll go take a look, see what we got in the marked room. Just, oh, hey, great, PP91. Basically nothing this time, but people will always come down here looking for the marked room, and then sometimes they'll come when the marked room is open to see if they forgot anything. Like, you always want to kind of run your hands along the ground like we did before, just see if there's anything that was left. Kind of like we did in White Bishop. Didn't see anything that time, but you can find stuff like VPXs that people just miss. Now, back to the main floor of Black Pawn. There's not a lot on the first floor. There's a duffel bag here. You can run to the end. Again, you always want to be careful running through here on wood because it's so loud. There's an entrance into the back. There's nothing really in this side. It's pretty barren on the first floor in this room, except for the far side. There's a medic bag. So if you're hurt, if you need to get here, this is like a little med station sort of. You have a med bag here. Go upstairs to the second story. You have a large weapons crate here that a lot of times doesn't get hit. A lot of people kind of ignore it. And then you also have a filing cabinet that you're relatively safe hitting. If you crouch and you're hitting this, like, The trees will kind of protect you from bishop. There's usually not a lot of people out here, and pawn won't really have a shot at you. So not a bad spot to hit if you're just looking to make money. The rest of pawn. Over here on this side, you have a little medic station. And you can see there's another med bag right here. There's another couple of these shelves that you always want to check, even though the spawn rates aren't quite as high. You can see there's a little cat there for heavy bleeds. There's an S-March. Good spot to kind of top up your meds on. Ammo spawns here. Come through the other side. You have a duffel bag. You have another weapons crate and another file cabinet that's relatively safe. It's also not a terrible window. You can pull this window out, especially if you have a rifle, and it kind of creates the space that you need. If you're looking at the front of Black Bishop, and you think anyone might be running around, or if you think people might be going in, it's not a terrible spawn to take a look here. You can also get a shot on people pulling the alarm that's in that building. You can get, if you have a scope, you can really take some shots at White Knight. Not a terrible window to actually peek out of when you have the chance. Moving on, third story. This is all without keys. There is the orb cage that's down here that I forgot to talk about. There's AK spawns there. You can actually see one. You do need a key for it. I've had them before in the past. A lot of weapon spawns you can see on that shelf. Good keys to have, just not priorities. You can get a lot of AK parts, but nothing that's super, super high dollar. Good to have, not a necessity. Now, once you're here on 3, there's this hole in the wall with a weapons crate. There is, I usually check these. Sometimes you get ammo spawns on these beds. So I've found AKs on them before too, like AK spawns, but it's super, super rare. So I usually just make a quick pass through 3. I don't usually stay there very long. Up on 4, same deal. Check the metal bed. There's not a lot. Sometimes ammo spawns on this fallen down bookshelf. Moving through, you have what would be an orb room, but it's actually already open. The spawn in here isn't very good. Just because it's a free room, it's not a key, but you do have 2 sets of file cabinets that aren't super exposed. You know, somebody, if they're really paying attention over here in Black Bishop, can put shots on you if you're just like standing here going through it. But if you crouch, it's gonna be pretty hard for them to put a shot on it and to find you as well. So you can get ammo that spawns on these crates. You can get some weapons parts. It's not as good as the rooms that are locked, but it's always worth looking at when you're on the 4th floor of pawn. Now, finally, the roof of these buildings are some of the best spawn points for them. You can get a lot of weapons parts here on these tables, magazines. If you come underneath this tent, this is a spot that a lot of people don't really check. You can get a lot of ammo spawns over here in these corners. Sometimes they can sink all the way through this this like tarp, and that you can't see them until you actually get there. So I like to crouch and walk and just check it. Even when I see that there's nothing, like you can see that box right there, but even if I'm looking and I don't see anything, I'll usually go and just crouch underneath and check it. Just to make sure it wasn't missed. Now we have a grenade box. We have sometimes weapons parts spawn on that table. Same thing with the crates here where you can get ammo, like we've been talking about the entire episode. Sometimes things spawn here for weapons parts. Weapon crate, weapons parts, and ammo. And then I've actually found a Magpul AK in here, like a kitted AK that you can get out of this crate. Again, super rare, but it spawns there sometimes. So I almost always jump up on top of the roof when I go to check it. Now, let's go to tie up pawn. We're going to go over to white pawn here real quick. And then we're going to go up to the dome, hit D2, and that'll be it for the episode. So, white pawn. We'll go into the basement again, just like we talked about with black pawn. I almost never loot any of these buildings. And some of them, like, there can be some, like, minor things in here. Like, sometimes you get some weapon parts or some ammo and stuff. This is the gym that cuts through in the middle. There's so much PvP that happens down in here where people are transitioning from D2 to try to come upstairs that I just don't spend a lot of time in here. You know, you can get some weapons parts on here, like I found ammo in this corner here. It's not worth it. It's the risk being down here and looting when you can have people just like pull up on you. It's not worth coming into like here to look for like M scissors that are on the shelf. So I almost always leave these, unless I'm going down into D2, I almost just don't spend any time in the basements looking for loot, unless I'm hitting a marked room. So, first floor, back on pawn. Over here in the corner, you have the building with the alarm in it. A lot of times, if you're paying attention, or if you're not paying attention, I should say, someone will pull this alarm and they'll run right into this building from here. So if you hear the alarm go off and you're in pawn, it's good to try to shut this room down, because a lot of times you'll catch them by surprise with them trying to run in here. There's also a duffel bag there. I don't spend a lot of time on it. I think tech spawn stuff spawns on these shelves. I usually don't spend a lot of time on the first floor outside of just checking this for weapons parts here in the middle. Like, they can spawn on top of this crate, they can spawn on that crate, and then I usually just run right up on top. Like, yeah, you can see there's nothing in this room, nothing in this room, really. The first floors tend to not be as good as, like, the second floors in these buildings. Now, you have an orb key here. Just like the other orbs, good, like, a lot of AK parts, a lot of AKs can spawn in there, good, decent chance for some ammo in there. And then you have some more weapons parts spawns here in the middle. They can spawn here on the tables. Like, these are some decent magazines. You also have a gym bag. Tech spawns here once in a while. It's not very lucrative. And then I've had AK spawn on that couch as well. There's nothing in this room. Going up to 3 now. You have a weapons crate here. Weapons parts. Ammo spawns here. Weapons parts here. And then sometimes I get, like, I feel like the loot down in this spot specifically spawns some pretty decent stuff. You can cut through over here. Nothing on floor 3. Floor 4 is where your other orb key is. This is the third one. Again, same deal. Weapons parts, AKs. You can see the rack there is empty, but a lot of good stuff in there. Ammo spawns here on the fallen over shelf. Grenade box here. Same deal. You can get some tech stuff here, but it's usually pretty empty, and usually when something's there, it's not great. But if you're looking for something, you can check it. Ammo here again. Rolling up to the roof. Now this roof is a little bit more interesting because, again, dome snipers, if you stop for this box, usually you're in some trouble. So I tend to ignore that box specifically. I check on top of that crate. You get some food spawns here. You have a duffel bag. And then over here, you actually get military tech spawns on top of this. There's nothing here this time, but anytime you see one of these satellites, like, you can get iridium there, you can get military cable, you can get a lot of stuff that a lot of people tend to overlook. In here, you get good ammo spawns on this shelf. Good weapons parts, like this is one of the better ones. Like, that's a great scope. The grip and everything isn't that good, but you can get a lot of good parts here. You have another grenade box. Over here, you can get some stuff that spawns on top once in a while. You have 3 jackets for keys. And then over here, you have 2 more wooden crates, another weapon part, and another set of ammo. That's going to do it for White Pawn. We're going to run up to the dome really quick, and I'm probably just going to fast forward to that. Alright, so for our second to last spot, we have the dome. This is actually one of my favorite places to spawn on the entire map because you have a lot of options when the game starts. You can run over here. You have a grenade launcher that you can load up and just, like, rip into pretty much everyone going for the drop down there in Bishop. You can light up that entire building to start. You can aim it towards the hole in the wall where people are going to run through the tank garage. You have just a lot of options where you can catch people. Sometimes people will be leaving King. Sometimes you'll catch people all the way out in the Hermatic doors if you have a high enough powered scope. Like, you have so many options where you can kind of get the drop on people early if you're paying attention and they aren't. So I like spawning up here both for PvP and for loot. So it's definitely better when you have keys. The dome. I obviously will start with these 2 buildings out front here. If you have the one that's free, and I usually call it the free room, where you have a safe, you have a PC, you have 2 file cabinets that I tend to leave alone just because there's so much loot here, and then you have a weapons crate that you can get weapons out of here. Like, you can get shotguns once in a while, but the spawn rate for them is super low for no reason. Like, I feel like they should buff that. I don't know why they have that as rare as it is, but rarely you can find weapons in here. Sometimes you'll get ammo, sometimes you'll get, like, a weapon part or 2. But for the most part, not a lot spawns in there. And then you have the locked room. And the reason this room is a lot better, it's an expensive key usually, is because you have a safe here, you have a second one on top, you have 2 weapons lockers, and then you have a weapons crate as well. So you actually have, there's a pistol safe underneath, but nothing spawns in there. You actually get 2 safes here, you get a safe here, and then when you spawn at the dome, you can actually run down these stairs and get the 4th safe on reserve before anyone else has a chance to even get to them. Moving into the building really quick, there's also a weapons crate right there. Wooden box, I should say. You have a duffel bag leading in the way in. Sometimes you get food spawns there. And you want to check the desks for intel. Yeah, see, there's intel right here. So you can actually get intelligence off of, I believe, all 4 of the desks in here. So you have this one, this one. You can get some tech supplies here, like metal scissors sometimes. This is an intel spawn, and this is an intel spawn. There are military shelves in here, but I have never found anything on them ever. So check them if you want. I'd never find anything there, and I never really find anything in these crates either. So you can check them if you want, but I don't know that they're even active loot spots. The only other spot you can really look is if you run out here. I've actually found milk on this before, but you can get ammo on this little crate outside too. It's not great, but it's something. You can go take a look at it. Coming back towards the center, that's about it for the first floor. Going up to the second, it's really kind of useless without keys. This is a dead door here, but in here, you've got a couple of bathrooms that, like, if you ever need to hide gear, like if somebody dies in a fight here at the Dome, or you've just been carrying your teammates' stuff for a little while, hiding stuff in here is pretty good that, you know, unless somebody has a loot radar, there's almost never any reason anyone's going to go in there. Next, you have 3 locked rooms. Now, this one's RSSLA, I know that. This one's KORL. Not sure, I don't remember which one that is, but this, I actually have this key. I'll open it for you so you can see it. This one in the middle is the one to have. There's military tech spawns on a shelf in there. There's a couple file cabinets. I think there's 3 of them in there. So you can actually make a lot of money if you catch the cough dams, you catch the MGTs that spawn in there a lot. Usually you can hit the safes, you can hit that room, and then you can hit what's on top of the dome that we'll talk about here in a second, and you've made so much money, you could probably just head out a raid and have made a decent amount there. So this room, I always look at these shelves. I don't think anything ever spawns there. Same thing with this one. I think they're barren. I don't think they spawn anything. But you have intel spawns both on the chair and on the desk. You can get intel on top of this shelf, and then you have the 2 filing cabinets that you can go through there. Now, I don't have these other 2 keys. This room kind of sucks at the end, too. Just a little bit of military, I'm sorry, just a little bit of tech stuff, like couple toolboxes, nothing great. But if you get the other keys, you might as well pick that one up just to round out your looting trip. I didn't know condensed milk spawns there, but it can, apparently. So, third story. We have a couple weapons crate that spawn ammo. You can get some weapons parts on here once in a while, and then you have a wooden crate. Go down to the other side. You have a gym bag here, and you can jump out. Weapons parts spawn on this table a lot. And then on here, you can get some med items. Like, I get a lot of morphine off of here. And once in a while, I get, like, Band-Aid and stuff like that. Usually nothing great. Like, I don't really find, like, Saliwas and stuff like that a lot. But the morphine's pretty good, especially if you're early in your wipe and you're looking for some quest stuff. Look on there for your morphine for therapist. Now, coming up to the actual dome, you can see there's nothing really on that first floor. But once you run up the metal, what you always want to do, watch for people coming up this way. There is a very good chance that if you don't, and you just run up here, not a very good chance, but there's a chance that if you just hit this crate, there's a lot of times it's going to blow your brains out if you're not paying attention. They have a really good sight line on you just hanging out in the dome. But conversely, if they get close and they start coming up the stairs here, and you'll hear them come up the metal stairs to get to this platform, you've got a great sight line on people where you can shoot them, and usually they're not going to see you right away. You can also shoot through that tent. So you have a weapons crate. You got a pretty good sight line on a lot of people that are up here. You just need to be careful that, like, people coming up can surprise you and get some pretty good shots on you if you're not careful. Now, coming over here, kind of like that room down in Black Bishop where I said the weapons parts just tend to be really good. The weapons parts that spawn up here tend to be pretty good. You can get a lot of good magazines up here. Sometimes you get, like, 60 rounders. Sometimes you get drum mags. Sometimes you get, like, good M4 mags. Sometimes you get, like this hexagon foregrips a pretty good one for the AK. You get a lot of good weapons parts off those crates. And that about does it for the dome. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to run down the metal stairs to D2 from the dome side. Now, when you need to extract, obviously there's an extract there for your Red Rebel, but if you're early enough, you can't take that, you need to go to D2. And I'm going to show you really quick. You can actually spawn down here too. But running down, usually it's pretty loud, but it will take you, if you want, you can be the first team down to the extract. Now, you still need to turn the power on before you can go. There's a toolkit there you can stop to check. But usually what I'll do is I'll hit those safes, and then I'll run right down here to make sure I get to the safe before anyone else that might be trying to run down here to Camp D2 can get. Now, once you're at the bottom, you have another duffel bag. You have some weapons parts here that spawn. You get some ammo that spawns in here. Moving on, just really quickly. I don't think anything spawns in that room. I never check it. In this room, though, you have a duffel bag, or you've got pineapple juice there. Yeah, there's a duffel bag here. And then you always want to check these shelves. I know it's really dark, but you can get some key spawns for, I believe, Shoreline in here. You have a weapons crate here, and then you always want to check these. And just on the floor around here, you can actually get, like, water filters. You can get some decent tech spawn stuff that usually winds up being pretty expensive end to wipe. This is D2. This is the extract is on the right. The power needs to be turned on. I usually come down here. I'll check these military shelves, like, once. I think, like, a couple times cumulatively, I've found aces on these shelves. So super rare chance, but you can get aces down here. You can get a little bit of military tech. It's pretty rare, but I always check them. And then you've got 3 toolboxes up top here. And your safe, which is in this back room. Now here's the thing about this back room. You need to be quick. There is a military shelf, and I usually just run along it just to see if it's here. But this is the only entrance and exit. So if you come up this way and you're making all this running noise on metal, and somebody comes in from the other side, and they lock you, like they get up here before you come out of the safe, like you're stuck in here. The only way you're gonna get out is if you're able to head tap them. They could sit anywhere out there and wait for you to try to make a move. And you have nothing to do. So anyway, here's your safe. Couple weapon cabinets, or a couple filing cabinets, and then you have a PC. I usually hit the safe and the PC, and then I usually head out. Now you can drop underneath. A couple more military shelves down here. I check them, but rarely find anything on them. I just go through all this really quick. And then you have a couple intel spawns. One on this little spool, and one on the desk. Another toolbox. Now let's say you want to leave. Well, we'll actually save it. We'll go do the rest of it first. We're actually going to be going kind of backwards into the rest of the map. But it all kind of applies. Now, you can check by this light for some fuel. Sometimes it'll spawn here. Sometimes you'll get some filters down underneath here. Sometimes you'll get some motors. Sometimes, like, there's some tubing you can see. If you want, you can just drop in there. I'll show you real quick. And you do need to be careful, but you can grab it. And usually, it can be a pain in the ass getting out of here. So, but it's always good to check just as you're walking along. I know it's kind of loud walking on the metal, but it's usually good. You do always want to watch for people camping. D2, like just chilling right here. A lot of times people kind of run, not paying attention. You can catch them by surprise behind that spool. Sometimes they'll be sitting on top of that little crate, and they'll use that light to blind you, so it's kind of hard to see. So if you're coming from this way, going towards the extract, watch for campers out here, and then once you're sure there's no campers, watch for some loot. Now, going back to the center of the map. Again, every time coming through here, it's usually kind of scary. You get people hiding behind there sometimes. Sometimes they'll hide behind this door because they can actually open and they can hang out behind it. They'll wait for you to come through and shoot you in the back. You just got to be careful. Pretty much every time you're leaving, you just want to check every corner and take it really slow. Another spot I see people camping sometimes is in this dark spot back here. I think you can actually, when you have high enough strength, jump on this box and then jump on the door up there. So, again, just got to be careful coming through D2. It's always a scary time. Just too easy to camp. Alright, so now we're in the center part of D2. We're in the middle of the map. This is the ramp to King, and I'll show you that really quick. Coming up, you have a couple rooms here. Like, you can get some food in here. It's pretty rare, but you can. And then in here, you have a duffel bag. You have a little bit of stuff that spawns on those sometimes, I think. I guess ammo spawns back on the shelf. I don't come back here a lot. Weapon parts, ammo. And then there's another door here. Again, I've never actually had that key. I've heard you can get tank batteries out of it. I've had this key here, which is just a couple toolboxes unless you're lucky enough that a military battery spawns. But these stairs literally take you into King. And there's that metal grate from King again. So when you come down from King, you can loot in there. Usually I head past it unless I'm looking for a tank battery. And you can just drop right into here. So if we were to continue on, if you're thinking about what's above, this will take you over to White Bishop, where it's submerged. If you remember, this is where I told you, don't run through, just jump through. Here's the center room. And there's usually scavs. Sometimes raiders hang out in here. I think Gluhar can even be down here, but I'm not 100% on that. I know raiders for sure will spawn down here. You have a tech supply crate, a medical crate, and a ration crate down here. You have a weapons crate. Second one over here in the corner. There's a grenade box right there. And then you can get ammo that actually spawns here sometimes, and weapon parts in the middle. You just got to be careful because, again, the last thing you want is be sitting right here and then have somebody come down and shoot you in the face while you're not paying attention. So make sure you're listening. Make sure you're paying attention. This is a highly contested area, but there is still some loot to be had here if you feel like it's safe. Now, we're going towards the power. We're in the center room. We need to turn the power on if we're going to extract. Always be careful coming through here. Again, people will hide like this, waiting for you to come around the corner and then pop you. People will, a lot of times, just be chilling like this, waiting for you, same area. Here's your toolbox. You always want to be careful when you're coming down here. And people love sitting in this corner. People love sitting in this room. People love just taking cover because they know you need to come here to turn the power switch on right here. They'll just hang out anywhere back in here and wait for you to come around the corner and try to kill you. Now that the power's on. Plus side, these military these military shelves almost always have military tech on it. Like, I almost always get like an MGT or a circuit board or something along those lines. So it's always great. Like, when you're the first one here, you always check. I know there's nothing in the offline, but almost always I find something here. Next, you have another marked room right here. PKPM is by far the worst. I'll open it just so you can see it. Well, there's a SIG in here, so this time it was pretty good. But it's just terrible. Like, you could sit here and do all these file cabinets. Once in a while, like, you can check the shirts and stuff. Again, we're just looking for the white dot like we usually do. Almost always, though, you get, like, there have been a lot of times I get nothing out of this room. A lot of times I get, like, junk guns and stuff like that. It's by far the worst, but if you're gonna come down here anyway, you might as well have the key. So I almost always open it. Again, a couple file cabinets here. There are intel spawns on a lot of these desks. You actually have to break that glass if you want to cut through. A lot of these spawns or desks can have intel on them. There's a weapons crate here. It's just good to go through and look at them, even though it's pretty rare. You just want to be careful, because like I said, a lot of people come down from this direction. This actually takes you, it's part of the submerged spot. This will actually take you over towards White Bishop and Black Bishop if you want to go that way. Another bathroom to hide stuff in. This room, just a spot to hide stuff in, usually. There's not a whole lot in there, so people don't tend to go through it very often. This is the same room as before. There's a weapons crate there, but this room, all in all, again, you really just, you have to come down here for a task. It's a good cut through when you think people are camping the power, especially if there's two of you, where you flank from this way, you're looking for them, your teammate goes from the other way, and you kind of just pincer them, because now all of a sudden they have nowhere to go. They're stuck in there. But if you only have one of you, or if you're both going from the same direction, they might hear you approach like this and decide, oh, well, I'll go out the other way, or I don't have to take this fight here. When you come from both directions, you don't really give them a lot of options, which is why I like splitting up there. Alright. So we'll show you the rest of this really quick. One or two more spots here in D2, and then we'll show you the extract and get out of here. This ramp takes you to Black Bishop. There's also a set of stairs. A little bit of stuff spawns here. You also get weapons crate here. I think there's a grenade box. Yeah, grenade box there. You can come up the stairs. And this is the way to Black Pawn. And then you have Black Bishop over this way. Now, what a lot of people don't do is come through here and check this shelf. I get a lot of good tech items off the shelf. A lot of water filters in here. Sometimes I get those FP100 filters, the really big ones, that sell for like 300 grand at the end of a wipe. Really, really good room that not a lot of people think about. The only thing is it's a little noisy coming up these metal stairs. So people kind of look out for that. This will take you to Pawn. This will take you to Bishop. Black Bishop, that is. You go right down the stairs into the water. That'll take you down to the center. And you go down into the water if you wanted to. That'll take you over closer towards White Bishop. And this is the side entrance over there towards the center. But the reason you don't come over here is for this reason. Like, it's loud on this screen. It's really loud for everybody else. Like, if they're down here, they're going to hear you walking through the water. They're going to know where you are, and they're going to cut you off and kill you while you can't move. So, be very careful when you choose to go that way, if you choose to go that way. Finally, last ramp here. That'll take you up to Black Pawn. This will take you up to White Pawn. There's a weapons box here. You get some Red Bull, or Hot Rod, I should say. This will take you to White Pawn if you want to go that way. And then here, with your red arrows where we came up from D2, go right back down. And you always want to take this careful. Always want to take this cautious, because, again, people can camp behind that door. Sometimes they'll camp up here, where just because it's so tight, they'll wait for you to come in here and then try to catch you in that room. You want to check your corner. You want to check straight across. And you want to look underneath the stuff. And especially under these lights. Like I said, you can get fuel and stuff like that that can be pretty valuable. Now we're almost out. That's the direction to the dome. If you want to go back up, you go that way. This is the way to the extract. So you always want to check this spot, but once in a while, they've turned it down a lot, but you can find some decent tech items here, like filters. Sometimes you get like relays on this. Sometimes you get more filters and relays back here. I always check it, but you always want to clear the room first. Go downstairs, still checking your corners. Always want to check your corners. There's a duffel bag back here, but you have to lay down to get it. And it's kind of hard to get back there. But if you lay down, you can actually search that duffel bag like that. Just a little more loot on the way out, especially when you're first. I always want to check these corners, even though I never see anyone hiding there. I feel like this would be a pretty good spot. Like, so if you really wanted to camp, and I don't suggest that you do, but if you wanted to camp D2, you could just chill like this. And you could sit with your head like this, just wait for people to move like right in this hallway, and there's nowhere to go. Like, once they come around the corner, they're going to probably do this, peek, and then once they start walking, that's when you come around the corner and just fry them. There's nothing they're going to be able to do about that. All right. But let's say we're not playing like that. Let's say we're playing like some Chads instead. On here, you can get military items. A lot of like Iridium will spawn, MGTs. You got a couple jackets. One last duffel bag. You pop here. You're always careful. One thing I like to do is I like to peek here. Then I like to peek like this, because this is the button you hit to open the door. People a lot of the times will hang out here, wait for the corner, come out and shoot you, and then the other really nasty way to camp D2 is to do this, where you jump on the railing. And a lot of people won't check it, so you can kind of like lean out. They can't see your feet from that direction. You can't turn too far, but if you do it right, you can sit up here, you can crouch, you can lean, and then they'll come from underneath, and as soon as they come out, they'll think they're home free. You got them. Anyway, don't ever do that. So usually what I do is I'll check, I'll kind of strafe in like this, pop up top, and then extract. So, anyway, guys, I know that was a lot to process. That is reserve in every loot spot that you can possibly, well, there are more, but basically when you're playing, that's every major loot spot in the game. I've been FTA Reaper. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you stuck this far. Hit subscribe, because I'm going to do a lot more of these guides that'll help you make money and help you know how to attack every spot that you go to, so you can make the most money and walk out of Tarkov paid in those raids you get out of. Thanks again so much, and I'll see you in the next video.